Hello, and welcome. Welcome once again to the Secrets of the High Demand Coach podcast. And I am here with a high demand mentor and coach to entrepreneurs, also serial entrepreneur himself, Mr. Jeremy Shapiro, who helps small business owners make the transition from solopreneur to business owner. A very important distinction that many entrepreneurs can easily miss when working in the business instead of on their business. Since 1998, through structured masterminding, one-on-one coaching, and consulting work, Jeremy has been helping entrepreneurs to discover their core strengths in themselves and their businesses and realize their true potential, combining passion and expertise to grow their businesses and attain the freedom they deserve. And he's here with us today. Jeremy, I love this distinction of solopreneurs and business owners. There's probably 1,000 ways I could go with this conversation, but I'm wondering if we just start, give us a little compare and contrast. What are the biggest differences between what you've dubbed a solopreneur and a business owner?
Yeah, for our listeners who are familiar with Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, he walks you through sort of these different stages of being an employee to self-employed over to business owner and investor. Right. And so those two pieces you and I are talking about here are that self-employed, like solopreneur side of things versus the business owner. And there's a really simple litmus test I like to use to determine where someone is at. And keep in mind, this isn't a black and white or binary, choice here. We're all on a journey from one towards that other side. And here's that litmus test. If you imagine what would happen when you step away from your business for a day or a week, a month, a quarter, right? When you come back to your business, is it the same as when you left it? Is it better than when you left it? Or is it a dumpster fire and you're out of business? For most folks, it's that latter category. And the thought of leaving for even a few days is terrifying to many earlier stage business owners. And so that's really the quick test we use to determine just how much time someone could spend away from their business totally offline.
Yeah, I love that. The irony behind that, some could call it a tragic irony, is that most folks, when you look at why they start their business, they start it for freedom and autonomy, right? And I've found many founders can somewhat check the box on autonomy, at least in like the Frank Sinatra, like I did it my way kind of a thing. But they really have not checked the box on freedom. What is it that prevents solopreneurs from stepping into that freedom?
Yeah, so the real freedom that comes with starting a business, right, is built around this idea of like freedom of time, or as I call it, your optionality, right? You get to choose how you spend your time, who you spend that with, and what you're doing. So that can mean you work with just the select clients or projects that are really, cool for you to work with, right? That could mean more time in your community with family, pursuing hobbies, more time building a business or launching a new business. It just means you get to choose. So how do we get to that point? Well, that comes down to a few really key things, but the biggest blocks I find for our newer business owners or self-employed business owners is in the world of mindset, right? Because to get to that entrepreneurial freedom, we need systems and we need people. But if you're in a scarcity mindset of, feeling nobody else can do things as well as you can, right? Or thinking a new hire is just going to steal your business and run away with it, then you're not able to get over that hump and start building out a team. And if you feel you have to be a perfectionist and do everything to beyond standard, well, right, that's great from a quality standpoint, but it will be limiting in terms of documenting systems and getting people who can run the systems that operate your business.
Right. I love that you bring up the perfection thing, because it plagues some founders. Some don't have as big a struggle with it. But one of the rules that I've found tend to be very helpful for folks in that space is, does it deliver quality in the eyes of the customer?
Yes.
Right? In the eyes of the customer. Have you seen that in your work, and how does it show up?
Yeah. So, I've seen this many times, right? A common path entrepreneurs take is they're a technician, if you want to use E-Myth parlance, right? They're working for some other company doing something, and they go off and hang a shingle and then do it under their own name, right? Frank Sinatra style, like you said. So you might be, an electrician and you open your own company doing that. But there's so much more to running a business than just the technical parts of it. That being said, the quality standard that you hold yourself to is important, right? Like the company is your name, your personal brand is all tied up in that. So you do want to deliver to your clients. We all do. However, there's a line beyond that where you've already gotten the A+, right? There's no bonus or extra credit and so on. So the first thing we usually work with folks to do is to actually document what success looks like, right? Define a successful outcome and then create the system from there. When you have someone using that system to get your definition of success, one of three things can happen. Early on, the most common one is you kind of miss the mark. You don't quite get that success because your system wasn't dialed in yet. But we iterate quickly in the beginning. The second thing that'll happen sometimes is the system is good, but the person didn't follow the steps, didn't do it right, or so on. And so you, again, miss the mark. But what we're moving towards is the ideal outcome, which is the most common as you grow, which is you've dialed in your systems and your team, and now you're meeting your definition of success that you are proud to have your name on, but someone else did so that they could unblock you.
Yeah, that's so true. You mentioned, almost as an aside in there, dialing in your team. And I've found that a lot of folks at this stage, they suffer from two very poor hiring strategies. There's the warm body approach, right? Like, are you breathing? Are you upright? Can you help? You can help me. Let's go. You can start today. Great. Now, great. Even better. Or there's the proximity approach, which is like you start by hiring like your niece for your social media, your uncle for your finances, right? And then you run out of nieces and uncles, so you go to the people that they know, and it's just kind of whoever's closest to you. Is that a great way of getting your team dialed in?
Oh my goodness. So, when we talk about systems, one important system in your business is your hiring system, right? And it might seem kind of meta there to have a system to get the people to use your systems, but like, this is the world of business. You want to scale a business, you want to sell a business, you need systems in place, right? So one of the strategies we love, especially for like the core roles in your business that you have lots of people doing, is to have what we call a hiring bench, right? So the idea is that you always have a flow of candidates coming through. So much like a sports team, when you need someone, in the game, you've got a bench that you can pull from, right? Notice none of that was around proximity or just a warm body. That was around having a clearly defined job description and then hiring for that. Because when you have systems, now you know who you're hiring. So when you're actually interviewing, you're not just talking about a job title or a task. You can actually go over a system and you can show someone the result you expect them to get, the highlights of how they'll get there, but most importantly is how they and you will know if they've met your definition of success or not for a role.
Right.
Think back. If you were when you've been hiring for a job in the past, maybe, or you've hired folks, when it hasn't been clear what a good job is, no one likes to be in that situation. So do your hires a favor and make it clear up front how you and they can determine if they're doing well or not.
Yeah. There's some folks listening that are like, Jeremy, that's great. I'm in. We need systems. I'm completely overwhelmed. Like, there's so many systems. How do we know where to start? So if someone wanting to make this move from solopreneur to business owner, how do they know where to start?
Yeah. So when you're a solopreneur, you're doing everything, right? You're, the chief, executive. You're also the bottle washer. You mop the floors, you cook the food, you do everything, right? So if you simply look at things from like a time audit standpoint of where you're spending your time, there are going to be things you're doing that are $10 an hour tasks, other things that are $100 an hour, $1,000, $10,000 an hour tasks, and so on. Obviously, we want to move you up on that chart so your time is worth more. So if we start with what are the things you can hire for, what are those more entry-level tasks that are sort of more systematized, the better. For many folks, some of those roles are like bookkeeper and accountant, right? That's usually a good starting spot, especially because these are often service providers and not employees, right? Secondly, depending on your business model, you might need like frontline customer service or customer support reps. That's usually a great role that can even be virtual and completely outsourced. And these are the kind of roles that start to unblock you. With one gentleman we were working with who was very much the archetype of what we're talking about. And in his business, if his customers were offline, like they were out of business until he got them back online. This meant that like he had to be by his phone at all times. Now, this is a guy who loved mountain biking, loved being out in the wilderness and nature and the outdoors. That's what recharged him. That's what, got him feeling good. That was great for his health, his mental health, his well-being. And he wasn't able to do that because there's not a whole lot of cell phone coverage out in the mountains where he'd like to go. So one of the first hires we helped him to figure out was getting a frontline customer service person who could answer that inbound phone call or email from one of his clients. Yeah. That simple, small, outsourced hire provided 8 hours of coverage a day during his business hours that freed him up to pursue hobbies and interests in his own well-being, but also let him work on things like product roadmap, job descriptions and systems, and all the rest of the things he needed to be doing in the business beyond the interruptive answer of phone calls.
Yeah. I love that. And just as a model, it's so true. Outsourcing kind of that admin function, hiring out the fulfillment function, and then focusing on both selling, right, is one of the best ways to grow your business, and then working on the business, not in it. When it comes to working on the business, for a lot of folks, particularly like the technician type, it's kind of like this Ricky Bobby moment. Like they sit in front of their computer and they're like, what do I do with my hands? It's a little awkward. One of the things that I noticed as I was researching the episode is that you do a lot of work with mastermind groups of entrepreneurs that are going through this together. What are some of the benefits of doing that when folks are on this journey from solopreneur to business owner?
Yeah, so the journey of entrepreneurship is similar between entrepreneurs, right? Starting in a similar place, going to a similar destination, but the way we get there is all a little different. I like to think of it that we all have different superpowers, right? We're seeing success in our own way, right? We're all those Frank Sinatras you were talking about, doing it my way, but it's different between each person. So when we get like-minded, growth-focused, lifelong learners together in a room, everyone's able to share about what's going on in their business, what's working, what's not, where they need help, and so on, and get that true peer advisory and support from others on a similar journey. What I find is people typically bring two things into the room, right? One is this superpower, this thing they're really good at that most folks find challenging, right? You might be amazing at pay-per-click advertising. You might be a phenomenal copywriter. You might be great at hiring. Whatever it is, there's something you're really good at, right? So you bring into the room the things you know. The second thing folks bring in the room is this big question, right? Many entrepreneurs that find us and are looking for a mastermind group feel stuck or blocked or plateaued. There's a question you've got that if only you had the answer, you could move forward. Yeah. And so you bring into the room this thing you don't know, right? And folks can help you with resources, knowledge to get unblocked. But the real value when you get like-minded folks together in a room like that is that third huge category. And that's what you didn't know you didn't know. Mm-hmm. This is where all the breakthrough ideas come from, the big pivots, those big ahas. New products get launched, new companies get launched, new sales channels get added, new marketing programs are added. It's phenomenal. And that all comes from being exposed to the behind-the-scenes movements of other business owners and what they're doing in their businesses that's working and not working, right? You don't know what others are really doing from the outside, but when people are openly sharing, you get that inside track, those shortcuts. You think about chutes and ladders, right? You're finding those ladders that move you up a level because others are showing you the way, the secret passages, as it were. And so that kind of behind the scenes look is not something you can find in books, right? And courses and mentors and coaches and anywhere else. So be intentional with who you surround yourself with. You'll be surprised at what you find out you didn't know you didn't even know. That unlocks that next level of growth in the business.
It's so true. I've been in a CEO group for several years now, and I'm just thinking back through kind of my aha moments, and I don't know that any of them had to do with me. Right? Every single one of them was like, this person having this problem, this other person, having solved that. I was like, I didn't even know that I had that problem. So that those things you don't know, such a powerful point. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. That mastermind approach is really the best way of rooting that out. It's fantastic. So Jeremy, I want to dive into these mastermind groups a little bit more here in just a second and how folks can get in touch with you. But before we get there, there's a question I ask all my guests. I want to fire it your way. I'm interested to see what you have to say. What would you say is the biggest secret you wish wasn't a secret at all? What's that one thing you wish everybody watching or listening today knew?
Yeah. So often when I talk to entrepreneurs, they feel lonely, right? Like they're the only one out there doing this thing, right? And whether this is, you as a business owner or you as a parent or just you as a human being, right? Like there's millions of us who've been doing these things for thousands of years, right? You're not the only person to be going through all this. So, to answer your question, as an entrepreneur, I want folks to know you're not alone on this journey. You don't have to be, right? There are others out there who are doing this, who face the same challenges you're facing today that you think are special to you and are unique to you. Others have been there and overcome that challenge and done it, and you can too. Surround yourself with those like-minded individuals. They can help you to get unstuck and get unblocked and know what's around the corner and what's coming. You can do it because others have as well.
It's fantastic. It's so true. So there's folks listening, and that's exactly what they want. It's exactly what they need. It's all clicking into place. They'd love to reach out to you to find either more about the Mastermind or some of your one-on-one coaching, group coaching, whatever it may be. How can they learn more about what you do? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, you can find everything about, our mastermind groups, how to start mastermind groups, and all kinds of great resources as well. That's all at bayareamastermind.com, BAYAREA, mastermind.com.
Fantastic. bayareamastermind.com. We'll get that in the show notes for you guys. Jeremy, love this episode. So much gold in it. I say this every once in a while, and I mean it every time. It's one of those episodes where if you just listen to it once, you're going to miss about half of it. There's so much gold in there. If any of this struck anything for you, go back and listen to it again. I promise it's going to be so much deeper the second time. So check it out. Jeremy, thanks for being here. Pleasure having you. For those of you watching and listening, your time and attention mean the world to us. I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I know I did, and I cannot wait to see you next time. Take care.